I made a video the other day about Aduro's corporate update, very long and packed press release telling us what's going on. And today I am sitting with Ofer, the CEO of Aduro, to maybe get a little bit more light on the press release, the corporate update, and anything else on Aduro. Thanks, Ofer, for joining me.
Thanks for having me, Mariusz.
Yeah, so, man, the press release was long. It was great. I'm telling you, for the first time in a long time, when I read it, I was like, wow, this is really cool stuff. Where before you did have some press releases, but I knew that they were important to the company, but I knew that maybe the investor community wouldn't care as much. But this press release was a wow, and I think people cared a lot.
Oh, thank you. So this press release, it's a long due. And I think I told you, and we always hear about what investors tells us. And at some point of time, feedback came out and says, we really need to, we're interested, or we want to see what is it you guys are doing, if you can help us. And so we created that. We felt this is not for the new investors. This press release is actually for the existing investors, because we care and we listen to what they say. And so we thought we're gonna bring it uphold. I mean, these guys, anyone who listened to what we've been doing is following the story, and they need some information. And so that was the intention, basically.
But you pretty much said R2 is running and it's working. That's what I got from this.
From the press release. So we wanted to bring the gravity of the activity that we have been doing in the last 4 or 5 months, right? We told investors what we intend to do. This year was all about bringing more brands, using the R2, commissioning the next 2 units, and working towards our pilot, basically. That's always been said and done. And so R2 was commissioned several weeks ago. There was no really news to say, because it was really initial. And I remember we talked and I told you we are running polymers, but we don't want to say anything meaningful before we get the gist of it. And it's a new process. And although we anticipate and knew what we're going to do, it's always better to come forward and have some experience with it. And so that's what we did. And basically right now we're entering this experiment program. And the experiment program is basically giving us the freedom to do 2 things. One is to start thinking in preparation of the future larger units. So we want to move on, but also get more commitment on the customer engagement. So a lot of the customer engagement that we had, or a lot of the discussions that we had, we kind of are waiting for us to commission this unit. Now the unit is commissioned, and we're not waiting. We're just running on it. And so our goal really in the next few months is to bring more of that type of engagement, as we said to investors as well. So it is all working in progress, really. And we wanted to give this type of gravity to the investors. We want the investors to know that that's what we've been doing in the last 4 or 5 months and going forward. So yes, long answer to say R2 is running, and we're just putting it into tasks, or different tasks as we see fit.
How are you going to solve this issue of you have your R2 and it has a certain capacity, obviously, right, and you want to run it for yourself, you want to run it for this potential client and then potential client? Like, yes, how do you prioritize? Because you can't do it all at the same time.
No, and you're right. There's in a way there should be somewhat of a pipeline constraints about it. But what is the customer engagement really, and how does it fit? So our customer engagement does not start with just showing some material running in R2. Our customer engagement really starts before, in discussions with the customers about different type of samples, and perhaps it has a commercial value for them. Perhaps they created their own sample and they're testing different technologies. And so we really start already at the lab, on the bed scale unit at the lab, those discussions before we even go to the continuous flow. So our process normally starts 2-3 months before on doing some experimental program after we understand clearly with the customers of just to show the customers things that are happening maybe in a more controlled environment, which is the bench scale units. And then we try to keep our engagement to those samples that are not extremely exotic. In other words, they are in line with our understanding that we need to do anyway on the R2. You see, if we have to close the system for 4 months just to cater a single customer, but this is such an exotic material, then it's a different story than if we have to open it to a sample that we know we already, one way or the other, has to do research in order to build our modeling and how we behave, how our process will behave, or how material will be affected from our processes and things of such. So now you can see that it's really like a funnel where we bring customers in that I think are in line with what we want to achieve at the end. And more or less, surprise, when you're talking about waste plastic, a lot of it is non-exotic. It's either very contaminated waste of post-consumer waste, which is a mixture of all kind of things. But today, it's fairly normal. We can envision what there is there. It could be a more selective waste, maybe industrial waste. So now you have something which is more unified. We understand it clearly. It's more clean. Or it could be something, maybe, as I gave the example of agriculture, which is really a known polymer, very known material. So it comes within stages, and it's usually in line with our main interest. We don't go after the most exotic of exotic material.
When you run a particular plastic for potential customer one, can you use the results from that customer for other customer engagements?
So everything depends on. So this is a kind of a little bit of a sensitive area. So you must understand. Of course, we gain the data and the information, but different customers and different potential partners have different interests, and so we don't, as you know, we don't speak on their interest publicly. We just, if needed, we report on the engagement. And for most of the time, there is some kind of a engagement relation. So it depends if really what is the engagement with this particular customer. It may be that there is a customer who build a certain type of feedstock, and the contents of this feedstock, would be proprietary for the customer. He doesn't want anyone else to, at least not us, to talk about it. And it could be another customer that just simply give you garbage, right? In shredded, clean, washed, but the garbage. That's a different type of scenario. They don't really care if you can talk about it. But overall, we get to enjoy the data, to understand the data, and of course, it's improving our ability to work on the next feedstock and the next feedstock. So basically, you're building your know-how base all around with respect to that.
In the press release, you also talked about your lab.
Yeah.
So can you say a little bit of where it is, and why is the lab even important? Why not just have the R2 wherever it is right now?
Right. So first, the R2 is running and operating in a temporary place, which we don't talk about it in this. We don't really care. What we cared really is to run the R2. The place was, we had some hurdles and we had to overcome, so we found a temporary place for the R2. But the concept of the lab basically was to give a home to our team, which is growing. So there was a need to find a space that will be permanent for Aduro. We settled down on 4,000 square feet, and we have place to grow there in terms of personnel. So growing was an issue in the place where we are. We were looking to expansion for many years, and we couldn't. It was not available for us to expand. So this is why we had to take out. And also in our business, and maybe investors doesn't know it, it's really, really hard. This is the era where circularity is all out. Everyone is dealing one way or the other with labs and space labs, and so there is there's not a lot of free space for you to use. 5-6 years ago, it wasn't the case. And so we had to lock down a place that we could operate and be able to grow independently to everyone else. And that's what we did. And I think I'm associating this with our ability, interest to move forward, to create this drive to move forward and not to be stuck or fall down on things that we don't want to. So, we enter those issues, we solve them, and we move forward. And this is with it also, I think, what the investors wants to see, that we are, solving our problems and moving forward. And so back to the lab, it's part of our project that we reported on, right? And so we felt we need to share this with the investors as well. But yeah, I'm very proud of it. It's going to be state of the art. It's going to be nice, and it's going to give us a lot of room to operate also with customers, host customers, bring people to our place, which is representative, and they could see the skills, and they could see Aduro's in its full. But at the end of the day, it's a space to work with. Really, that's how we judge it, and it was important because we spend a lot of time.
Yeah, it is not at the location where I visited, right?
No,
at the university.
When you will come, it is in London, Ontario, and the offices are completely done, and they are, already furnished. The boardroom, the stations, everything is done. But the back room of it, which is a warehouse, used to be a warehouse, is now fitted with HVAC systems, with fireproof dooring, with partitions to the different labs that we are interested to have. So that equipment will be in one area, and maybe the more industrial unit will be in another area. Samples will be in a different area. So that's kind of the concept. While we're doing so, we are not stopping, and we are, as you saw from the press release, we're pushing to commission the unit in whatever place we can do, because that is the goal. That's what's important, really.
So should I assume that you will be moving the R2 to your new location soon?
Not soon, because we want to run it now as much as we can. So, there was an overlap, and there's an organic growth. But now that our processes are being commissioned, we hired also operation people. We have about 6 people total. So we doubled, and this is another area I guess we should talk about. We gave the company basically a new capabilities. If you notice, Mariusz, we really transformed the company again, because we had an R&D team, now we have an operation team, and now we added also the units. We're commissioning the units. So we're really giving the company those new capabilities to start organically operate. And we don't want to stop. And right now, if let's say moving to the lab is secondary then to treat our engagement program and our pipeline. So if we'll have the time, and in due course, when it will be ready, we will consider it. But our first goal is to work with the team on our pilots, test those processes, so we would understand how to grow to a different and larger unit, and absolutely be able to engage and build pipeline from potential partners. And so that is the main priority. So yes, at some point we will move, but not in the next 2-3 months. Well, some of the team will move, but the units will stay until we have some free time, and we will then consider the relocation.
Yeah, because I'm sure some of your potential customers, they were waiting for this moment for you to finally be ready to run their stuff, right?
We want material, yes. And so we have some of those, and I hope you'll see, I don't hope, I tell you'll see in the next few months those engagement coming into materialize, and you'll hear about them. But that is the moment that we are ready. I mean, I think Mina and I talked in the 2022 about building the building blocks, preparing the building blocks. This is the building blocks ready, and now we're moving forward.
Now, I remember when we did prior interviews, you said something like you're getting so much potential interest that it's just too much. You can barely handle it. Like, did this slow down, increase?
It's the stream remains fairly strong. quite wonderful to see the interest on the plastics area. I mean, our assumptions seems to be aligned with whatever goes on in the market right now. And so we have we still remain and having strong interest cross-border from different types of the world to test the technology and evaluate the technology. And if you remember, Mariusz, I mentioned that this is a golden opportunity for us because in 2025, organizations will have to come up with some statements of which technology they need to select to work with. And we have this golden time from now until 2025 to convince them that us is better than many others. And so the strongest demand is still the demand is, and the request for information is still strong.
That's great. Now, your update also talked about the Bitumen unit.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe we could address this because we all think plastic is sexy and it's cool, but then there's also the R2 for Bitumen that you're working on.
So we focus on of course the Bitumen and the plastic unit over the last 2 years. We put a strong attention into it. Now that we hired and trained the operation team, and I welcome them home. I mean, wonderful to see that again arm joining into Aduro and working with the R&D team. The task of the R&D team, the operation team right now, is to focus and commission both of the units, the flash drum and the Bitumen unit. We anticipate that both of them will be ready before September, somewhere in August. And again, just like I mentioned with the plastic engagement with our potential customers, not everything hinge on the continuous flow unit. We are starting to work already on the bench scale in the lab. And so now that we know that those units will be commissioned in the near future, we are doing those engagement to start and do some work in the lab with some of those guys that we've been engaged before. And we have a lot of work to achieve until September with them. And once we'll see that this pipeline we get more data, more information, we will continue and engage. Now we could market the company and the application to other heavy oil producers. That will be the journey.
Also, last time we talked, you mentioned a little bit about you're halfway there with your Shell program, and then you also said that you're asking to see if you can update the market about how it's going. I was wondering if you could give us more color on that.
Yes, so remains the same. We have something that we're waiting to see, just to have the approval from Shell. If we can send some published update. We did finish the third phase, and we're entering the fourth phase, which is really related to the R2 actually right now. And we just need the Shell's approval to the content of it. So hopefully it will come soon.
And I also noticed that you hired investor relations firm. And when I saw that, I was like, R2 is running, R2 is working. These guys are ready to tell the world what's going on.
Yes. And so there is, I think Aduro is, building those capabilities, right? We build the R&D capabilities. We're building the operation capabilities. We're now, moving and focusing really in a strong way on our marketing capabilities. We want to create the awareness. We always knew that this is a weaker area for us because it's at the end of the day, the website, the videos, everything has to be prepared. We have to agree on our messages in a strong way, acceptable way. And so this work has been done for the last 6 months. It's the website. The investors will see a new website in the coming few weeks. There'll be some videos that are associated with that, with our processes that will be also becoming free and available. And we are uplifting all of our material And in this material, as opposed, it's not just a new material, but it is a material that says, okay, we have this customer engagement, we have this unit, we have this operation, we have this R&D. So now when this is basically the time to uplift your marketing and says we are as a company becoming more ready and to create that type of awareness. So it's not just about, building a new website. It was about, the timing was to build these all capabilities so we could go out and present ourselves as more significant power than we've been a year and a half. And Mariusz was through this journey. I mean, we talked, when was the first time we talked? Maybe a year, 2 years ago?
I don't even remember.
Yeah.
But it was a while.
Yeah. So every time we talk, we're changing something in the face of the company, right? When last time we talked, we didn't have the operation guys. So the operation guys are here. It's the units. Before that, there was no unit. We just commissioned the R2. We couldn't say anything about it. Now the unit. So this is all about building those infrastructure for us to move forward. And I think that's what we are doing.
Now, since we're on the topic of investor relations, I know you wanted to, at some point, have investor visits. Do you have to have your R2 in the new lab for that to happen?
No, I mean, we will plan something. We are very, very busy, and we fully appreciate the interest to come, and we really want people to come. I see no problem to host investors that want to come. We just need to create a program around it. You simply cannot bring any person from safety. Imagine the situation near an operating unit which is high pressurized, high temperatures. You can't do that. Those events has to be planned basically, and the team needs to plan it in order to shut down maybe the system or just show just a little bit of the front of it, or do something in order to keep everyone safe on one hand. On the other hand, I think it's really, we heard that people are interested to come and see it, and we are capable of doing it, hosting it. We just need to plan it. And really, it doesn't matter if it's in the London lab or in the existing current, basically temporary site. It just doesn't matter. What we need to do is just to prepare a program for it. The conflict of issues, of course, is that right now, our attention is on the pipeline, building the pipeline of the customer engagement, and moving really, really in an aggressive way to build the Bitumen unit, the flash drum, and take the other projects on board and start executing or continue to executing on them. So there is a bit of a conflict. So we'll see. We will be in touch, and we'll see how we plan it and when. And there'll be a time where we'll say yes, we have a program, and we'll interested investors that will want to visit will be open to do so. Absolutely.
All right, great. Is there anything else that you would like to discuss about the corporate update that maybe I didn't ask you? Because I don't have any more questions.
The corporate update, from my perspective, the significance of it was to show really two things, two items, two elements. The first was again, as I mentioned, it's for the investors. It's really for us. It's for the existing investors who's been believing in the company and supporting the company. I really wanted to expose the gravity and the magnitude of the things we've been doing in the last 4 or 5 months. It was not silent for, just sitting down on the beach somewhere. It was silent because we've been busy doing all of those activities. This is quite a lot. And so the corporate update was really to expose, to open a window to the existing investors to see that. The other element of the corporate update is really to pass a message to the investors that, again, I feel we're transforming the company. Again, we build this capabilities, and our intention now is to not wait but run and execute on it in order to use it, to materialize on it. And that's the other item that I really wanted the investors to hear. We're now having the tools, and we're going to utilize them. So just keep on supporting. Thank you for the support. And I think the next year is quite exciting. The next 6 months will be quite exciting based on what I just told you.
All right. Well, I'll be looking forward to it. Thank you very much for doing this.
Oh, thank you very much, Mariusz. Thanks also for the listening. Thanks for having me.